My name is Bob Bosch. I do opt art, and what that means is I use mathematical and computer science-based techniques to design visual artwork. This talk is a tribute to the great Ken Knowlton. Without coming across his work, I would have never been able to spend the past 22 years doing what I do. I first came across Ken's work in Omni magazine back in the early 80s. In May 1981, I read this column written by Scott Morris, who attended gatherings here, that showed a really wonderful, beautiful portrait of one of Ken's friends that's made out of 24 complete sets of double nine dominoes. 4 years later, March '85, Scott Morris devoted part of his column to showing off more of Ken's work. Here we see two portraits, Marilyn Monroe, Albert Einstein, made out of 4 complete sets. And hopefully you've seen this one. This is Ken Knowlton's absolutely wonderful portrait of Martin Gardner made out of 6 complete sets of double nine dominoes. So I want to say a bit about how you might want to design domino mosaics using Ken's method. So it's a 2-stage process. In the first stage, you partition your target image into domino-sized slots. And in the second stage, you go ahead and you assign either virtual dominoes or real dominoes to those slots. The reason I call it the Knowlton Method is that in his book, The Stanford Graph Base, Don Knuth pointed out that each of these 2 stages is easy. They're both computationally not at all taxing. They can be done in polynomial time. So let me illustrate. Here's a target image, Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster. I've imposed some squares upon it. We have 22 rows of squares and 15 columns. And what I'm going to do is show you what happens when we do some image processing. So what I've done is taken the grayscale values of the pixels, I've averaged them for each square and scaled. So now, in a way, I've downsampled, and now we have numbers that range from 0 to 9 that represent the individual squares. So 0 is black, 9 is white. In between values are various shades of gray. The larger the number, the brighter. So what we're going to do now is talk about that stage 1, taking this array that describes that target image and partitioning it into domino-sized regions. The way Ken Knowlton would do it is to maximize the contrast. So here's a solution to stage 1, a la Ken. And you'll see here that there's a lot of domino-sized regions that have high contrast. Toward the middle of the forehead, you can find an 8-0, and then an 8-1, and then another 8-1, and then another 8-0. Those are all really important regions. So this idea of developing a slot pattern, designing a slot pattern that maximizes contrast is a really good idea. In stage 2, we assign the actual dominoes, virtual or real, and we try and match up the numbers on the dominoes to the numbers that were shown on the left. And this is the best you can do for stage 2 for that particular slot pattern. 3 complete sets. I think it turned out pretty well. But what I want to point out next is that it doesn't really matter all that much if you do all that well in stage 1. If you do decide to use purely vertical slots as shown in the middle, you still get something recognizable. And if you use mostly horizontal slots and just a final column of vertical slots, you can still get something that's recognizable. The costs that we see here are the costs for stage 2. The lower the number, the more close the portrait is to the original target image. And the fact that we have different options allows us to hide one image inside another. That's what steganography means. So what we have here is 2 48-set portraits of Frankenstein's monster, and each one has an image hidden beneath it. And how do we get the hidden image? Well, we simply strip away all the dominoes that are lying there horizontally, leaving all the ones that are vertical. So here we go. Okay, so on the left, did you think that we'd be seeing Dracula hidden in Frankenstein? On the right, did you think we'd be seeing the mummy hidden within Frankenstein? No. Okay, and what we're doing here is really, we figured out a way to paint with vertical black dominoes and horizontal white dominoes. So we have an unlimited supply of these different dominoes, and we can only place the black ones vertically and the horizontal ones whitely, the white ones horizontally. This allows us to prove a theorem that Dracula plus negative Dracula is not 0, but it's Frankenstein's monster, and there's the proof. I only have a minute left, so I want to move on to the lenticular dice mosaics. This is a famous mosaic done by Ken Knowlton, Albert Einstein in 999 dice. The dice are facing outward, so you see a face of each. But you can do something different. This is inspired by optical curiosity at Oberlin College. If you get up close to it from the front, you see a mashup of two images. From the left, you see a bird. From the right, you see a rose. And it can be done in dice. So if we get up to the center, we see a mishmash. From the left, if we view that same thing from the left, we see Frankenstein's monster. Same thing from the right, we see Dracula. I call this monster mash. This is a view from it up close that gives you an idea in how we built it. We used a router with a triangular-shaped bit to carve out columns that have like a triangular cross-section, put the dice in, glue them, and we're all set. And if you're interested, check out my book. It's on the display table, sold by Princeton University Press. Okay, I'm all set. Thanks.